Good. We've been having an interesting text and DM conversation over the last week or so. So I'm just curious. Let's go back to the vote on the continuing resolution on Donald Trump's
Mhm.
budget. How did you feel after that, after the whole debacle?
Oh, angry, betrayed, I would say demoralized, and very scared. Very scared.
Where was
What about
that
you?
fear coming from?
Well, from multiple places. I mean, first of all, it was the feeling that we were giving up all our leverage moving forward in exchange for and I'm just going to be honest, for the absurd premise that Republican federal lawmakers will engage in good faith moving forward. Which is part of Mr. Schumer's argument for, averting the shutdown, is that Republicans would work in good faith on future things, which history does not support whatsoever.
No.
Um, yeah, and then the second thing I think is it's yet another example of just how bad Democratic messaging has been this year specifically. As I've been telling people, my frustration with Senator Schumer is not about a bill on one vote. It's not just about that. It is part of a long pattern of anemic, ineffective, uh, I would say out of touch perception of what voters need to see right now.
I would even go back further. I mean, I think I thought when we lost the election that surely Democrats had been preparing for this, that they had been coalescing around a strategy, that we would see that unveiled. And that didn't happen. And I thought, okay, we're all sort of in shock. Democrats will come together and they'll see what it means to be an opposition party. And then that didn't happen. And I'm not saying everybody, there are people like Cory Booker and AOC and Bernie Sanders and um, Elizabeth Warren and not just even on the far left, like there are moderates too and never Trumpers who are really meeting the moment. But I am not seeing our leaders that actually have the power and should be leading the opposition meet the moment. And I get a lot of pushback about don't criticize Democrats. This is why Democrats lose. They're not as united as Republicans. And I just don't buy into any of that. I
Mm,
actually think that people who are, leaders in the party should be expected to step up. And if they can't step up, they should step aside. Democracy is on the line. We are
mhm.
seeing Donald Trump behave in ways that we never imagined a president would behave in the first 100 days of an administration. And I'm 54 years old, so this is not ageism. Like I believe there is a place for people
Me
who
neither.
are older and have wisdom, but if you have been in office for 50 years and some elected level and you don't know how to meet the moment, then you are just hoarding power. You
That's
are
right.
not being a leader. And so I'm curious, because you, Charlotte, started this petition. Talk a little more about that.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been talking about this since Inauguration Day. The lack of preparation that congressional Democratic leadership did for what everyone knew was coming. 18 months before Election Day, the Heritage Foundation published Project 2025, which was basically the plan for most of what we're seeing take place right now. So we've known, everyone's known, in the political world at least, that for the year and a half before the election of what was coming. And when I asked several members of Congress directly in private conversations, I asked them, was anything done between Election Day and Inauguration Day to prepare for what we all knew was coming? And all of them said no. In fact, one member of Congress told me, if there was some kind of planning by Democratic leadership, I didn't hear about it. Uh, you know,
Very concerning.
Very concerning, the lack of preparation, the lack of messaging. And look, you know, I think if Mr. Schumer had spent the past 2 weeks after that vote, if he had spent, if he had put out a plan, if he had said, "Okay, you know what? I get people are scared. Here's what we're gonna do." that would have mollified me quite a bit. That would have, told, like, shown me and millions of us who are concerned right now that, you know what, there is some kind of tangible strategy here. But that is not what happened. He has spent most of his time in media doing this tour to defend his specific vote.
Let's be clear,
Complete,
it's a book tour.
yes,
He's
yeah.
selling a book.
He's selling a book on an important subject, by the way,
Yes, yes,
anti-Semitism. We all believe that. I certainly believe that's important to talk
yes.
about. More pressing to me right now is how we are all staked to whatever happens, and not just in for the rest of the year, but specifically over the next 6 months. And I'm terrified. I think a lot of us are scared, and I just do not see intentional leadership right now. I don't.
There's none. And we were talking about Chuck Schumer going on television for his book tour. He was on Chris Hayes one night and he said, "This is not yet a constitutional crisis. It will be a constitutional crisis when Donald Trump defies the Supreme Court." And then he was on a show the next day. He must have gotten a lot of negative feedback about that because he said, "Yes, we are in a constitutional crisis." It doesn't make sense. It doesn't explain his vote. And again, I don't pretend to know whether the budget resolution should have passed or not. I think there were bad outcomes for either, and that is not
Mhm.
my criticism. My criticism is that, as Nancy Pelosi said, Chuck Schumer got nothing for nothing. He did not negotiate. He did not explain to the public what was going on. He did not communicate
Mhm.
a strategy we could rally around. And it does feel, I'm not saying Chuck Schumer should be the leader, but like we are leaderless right now. Now, there's a silver lining to that, which means leaders can emerge. And we're seeing some, I think, do that. Maybe a third party will emerge. I don't know.
Mm.
Um, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I mean, I think that when democracy's on the line, all options are on the table.
Yeah.
And I'm not equating my power to Chuck Schumer's, but I will just tell the story about what I think. I think all power is finite. When I
Mm.
started Monks Demand Action, I knew that I wasn't going to do it forever. It wouldn't be good for the organization to do it forever. And so after 11 years, I stepped back and I handed the reins over to another leader so that the organization could
Mm.
grow and evolve. That is what leaders should do. And what we are seeing, I think, in Congress is a generation of leaders who believe they should be in power no matter what, and that we should just trust them blindly, and that we should not expect them to be mentoring other people and to step aside so that we can continue to evolve and grow as a party.
That's right. No, everything you just said was exactly right. And I mean, quick disclaimer here. I am not a leftist or someone who wants to burn the party down. Quite the opposite. I am a very proud Democrat. I believe there is so much good about our party. I believe there are so many
Me
great
too.
leaders within our party. As you said before, this is not about age for me. I know some other people are making the argument. That is not the argument I make.
No.
There are many older Democrats who are fighting the good fight, who are standing
Yes.
shoulder to shoulder with the rest of us. This is not about age. This is about competence. That's what this is at this point. And
Fight.
look,
Fight. Like it's as basic as human emotion to say, I am outraged, I am angry. And I've sort of turned a blind eye, I think, to some of the things in the party, whether it's, people selling and trading stock, whether it's people hoarding power or doing everything they can to keep women, particularly women of color, from taking leadership roles. Like
mhm,
I am, I have been sort of like a wait and see attitude, and yet suddenly all of this is coming to a head. That's what it feels like to me.
yeah, that's what it feels like to me too. And I think that what Mr. Schumer is hoping is going to happen is that, first of all, this is going to pass quickly. That this is just a rough patch
Yep.
of a bad PR, and that he'll be able to make it through, which is insane to me because here's the thing: Mr. Schumer's strategy seems to be the same for both problems he's facing. Right? There's the bigger problem of Trump. There's a smaller problem of basically the movement and the party rebelling against him increasingly, and being very disenchanted with his leadership in the Senate. And his approach to both has literally been, let's wait and see.
Yep.
Um, I think that Mr. Schumer is still operating off an understanding of a political environment that has not existed for at least 6 or 7 years, at least. And that is that, when one party screws up really badly, that voters will say, you know what, I'm just going to go with the other party because that party's screwing up. I don't think we're there anymore. I
Yep.
really don't. Here's what I think happens. Trump is going to screw up. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Schumer on that. He's going to screw up. The economy is going to fail. That's all going to happen. What I don't agree with is the presumption that American voters are going to respond to that by saying, all right, I guess it's back to the Democrats. I think what they're going to do is look at what Trump is doing, and they're going to say, well, Trump really sucks, but you know what? Democrats don't really have a vision either. Both parties are bad. I'm just going to
Yes.
check out and hope this works out.
Which is what 90 million voters did this last election cycle.
Yep,
I totally agree
that's
with
it.
you. And I saw someone put this in the comments. Like, we hear these arguments like, we shouldn't criticize other Democrats. If we just sit tight, they'll lose. Like, there's all these strategies that don't work. There is a reason that we lost this election. And I'm not in a cult. I don't want to be in a cult. I want to be
No.
able to disagree and to push back and to pressure test. And look, I agreed with the people who said that Joe Biden shouldn't run again. And then I agreed with the people who said Joe Biden should s- hand over the the party to Kamala Harris to run for president. And I think
Mhm.
all of those things were right. And I think the same about Chuck Schumer, which is we need younger leadership. I also think I don't know if you've ever thought about running for office. I had a conversation, a few years back when I was thinking about running for Congress. And what everyone in the Democratic Party kept saying to me is, you can't primary your own party. This is just, we don't do that. We have a hierarchy and a system, and you wait until it's your turn. I really hope what we see, in particular with women, they don't wait. I
Mhm.
want Lauren Underwood to primary Dick Durbin ASAP. If he doesn't retire, she needs to become the Illinois senator, or at least run for it. Like, I
Yes.
hope that what we see now is that the inaction and the inability of these leaders to meet the moment means that they get primaried.
Yes, I agree. I and look, we were actually on opposite ends of the debate over President Biden. You thought he should drop out
Yep.
and that he should hand over the reins. I didn't think that. I was with Joe Biden literally until that statement was released in which he said he would no longer run. And I had my reasons, and you had your reasons. So what does it say that both of us who were split over President Biden are not split on Chuck Schumer? We're not.
And we were able to come together. I mean, that proves the point that you can disagree and not stick
Yes.
together like we're in a cult and still move forward together as a party, right? That didn't impact our friendship. It didn't impact our desire to stay in the
No.
party. Like, at the end of the day, what happened happened, and you coalesce around the new leader, right?
Mhm.
But you and I both agree that we need new leadership who can, I keep saying meet the moment, and I just want to be clear about what I mean by that. I mean, communicate in a way that is not from a playbook of campaigns past.
That's right.
I feel like, we are Chuck Schumer kept talking about 2017, and he even said, once we get Donald Trump's favorability ratings down, Trumpism will be over. Well, first of all,
Mm.
I mean, look at the Democrats' ratings. How far did Donald Trump's ratings have to fall to meet the Democrats' ratings? We're at like
That's right.
29%. That's not going to
29%.
happen. And then the other issue are the disaffected voters you said, who believe no matter what, neither party meets the moment, and so they're not going to vote for them. But the other piece of this is it's not 2017. We are in uncharted territory here. Like, we
Mhm.
need the most effective communicators, the most respected leaders, the people with fight and emotion. And I just feel like I don't understand why they can't. These lawmakers, these leaders aren't self-aware enough to say, I did an amazing job for 50 years, or maybe 25 of those 50 years, and now it's time for me to step back. That doesn't mean retire, but just step back. Just
That's right.
stop hoarding power.
I mean, look, when after the 2018 midterm, when there were calls on Speaker Pelosi to step aside from leadership, and then she was challenged by Tim Ryan and Seth Moulton during the leadership election, and she said, "Look, I hear you. I don't necessarily agree, but I hear you. And so I'm only going to serve 2 more terms as leader and then I'm done. And she was true to her word. She stepped away after those 2 terms. You know, I think if Mr. Schumer had done that, maybe a term ago or something, we would
Yep.
not be nearly as frustrated, certainly. But moreover, again, this comes back to messaging. And regardless of whether or not we agreed, anyone agrees on, Mr. Schumer's decision on the continuing resolution, it's the messaging that matters at the end of the day.
Yes.
Look, I do disagree with his decision, but if he were able to sell that to Democrats and get us pumped
Yes.
up and get moderates or people in the middle of the road pumped up, fine, I'm okay with that. But we're not even doing that. It doesn't it is not clear to me what advantage we've gained. And by the way, every argument that he has used in favor of voting for the continuing resolution and averting the shutdown is falling apart. I mean, he said, okay, well, we need to shut it down. We need to prevent the shutdown because the courts will not be able to be open and continue doing their jobs. First of all, that's inaccurate. The courts would have been funded with rollover funding for several weeks. But second of all, Trump has literally defied 2 federal court orders by now. Two separate federal court orders on pretty serious matters, basically deporting people who are legally here, who were kicked out by Trump without due process, and judges stepped in and said, "No, you can't do that. We're going to put an injunction." And Trump said, "To hell with your injunction," and then sent him away. And Mr. Schumer, who had just a few days before literally said, "We got to keep the courts open," didn't really have much of a response in regard to an impeachable offense.
Yep.
I don't I don't get it. I not only do I not get it, but it makes me angry that Mr. Schumer and the very few defenders he has, their inability to communicate anything in the guise of a reasonable strategy for the next 6 months. We're almost at the 100-day mark of this term,
Yep.
and we still do not have anything in the way of a tangible plan. And folks, I got to tell you, not only is it frustrating, but it is unprecedented for a minority party to not at least have something in the way of a tangible strategy.
Yeah, a couple and a few more things. So someone said, we are denigrating all that Chuck Schumer has achieved. Absolutely not. I,
No,
I think he there in his career he's done a lot of amazing things. But I
me
also
too.
think he is part of a system that in some ways is very similar to the Republican system. And we have outgrown that given that democracy is in peril. I also want to point out that Chuck Schumer's brother, I sent you this article, Charlotte, is
Oh
is
yeah,
is like a partner in that bank that just settled with Donald Trump. Like there are just a lot of tentacles here
Paul
that,
Weiss.
yes, that are very unnerving to me. And, you know, I think that I want to talk more about your petition, but as you said, we are 100 days in. We do not see any plan that we can be following. Grassroots is top down and it's bottom up. But the bottom up, which is people taking to the streets and people showing up in mass, that doesn't happen unless we get some marching orders from the top. And right now,
That's
they're
right.
all over the place. Donald Trump's a fascist. No, he's not. We're going to cooperate with him. Democracy's in peril. Not really quite yet. It will be when the Supreme Court gets involved. Like there's all these mixed messages. And I think the danger is that it makes voters sort of, I don't know, cynical or um, just kind of waiting for figuring something out and maybe even feeling hopeless or helpless.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of voters right now feel quite disenchanted. And, from that same NBC poll that showed 29% of voters have a favorable view of the Democratic Party, 2/3 of voters believe that Democrats should be partisan, should fight back, should be unwilling to engage in any compromise until Trump and
Yes.
Musk see some kind of accountability. So this same poll is telling us that the vast majority of Americans want us to fight back.
Yes.
You know, I didn't support Senator Sanders in 2016 or 2020, and I do not regret that, quite frankly. But there is a reason that he is drawing enormous crowds in this tour that he's doing with Congresswoman AOC. It's because people want to see fighters. There are people going to these Sanders rallies who didn't vote for him either and don't necessarily want to see him lead the party, but they are so starving for some kind of fight that
Yep.
they'll go to a rally for someone they didn't support just to see a senior Democrat stand up and say, enough is enough. We need to fight back.
Yep. And Molly, I see your message. Thank you. I misread what you said, but I didn't even notice it was you. But thanks for the clarification. I mean, just think about what Donald Trump would be doing right now if the Republicans were the opposition party.
Yeah.
They would be doing stunts every day. Imagine if,
Hmm.
you know, I say Elon Musk is the equivalent of Joe Biden installing Hunter Biden as
Yeah.
his czar who is dismantling government programs. Let's say he's a,
Mark Cuban.
yeah,
What if Joe Biden installed Mark Cuban in this way?
but Mark
Yeah.
Cuban, if he were a ketamine addict and
Yeah.
white supremacist with 14 children.
Yep.
I mean, the hypocrisy and the abject um, disregard for cultural norms, and yet there is, there's a role that media is playing in this too, right? But
Hmm.
it's I think sometimes it is difficult to be a Democrat and fight against Republicans because there are no norms on their side,
Mm.
and cruelty, chaos, confusion, like it's all part of what they're trying to achieve and not avoid. And so it is difficult, but I still believe that there are leaders in our party who can step up and meet the moment. I do believe that we should be, giving these young and diverse members of Congress an opportunity to lead. Someone I saw on Twitter posted that what Democrats need is like a shadow government, including their own press secretary, who every day is giving updates on Democrats' leadership and messaging and strategy and just counter programming. And that's
Yeah.
what we see in AOC and Bernie and Cory Booker and some others. Adam Kinzinger is one that I really love to watch. Like, we don't have that going on for us.
No. No, we don't. And people will rightly point out that there is very much an asymmetrical standard that's applied between Democrats and Republicans by mainstream media. Mainstream media will let Republicans get away with a lot because reporters and editors and outlets are afraid of being punished for unfavorable reporting. Whereas Democrats, we don't punish reporters. We'll get angry at them. We might, deny them an interview or two, but there is nothing like what we're seeing with the Republican Party and Trump do to the mainstream press right now. So yeah, I get it. But even so, as you said, there is no formal media outreach apparatus in place right now, and it is so infuriating on a daily basis to know that there are tens of millions of Americans who have no idea what the Democratic Party strategy is
Yes.
because there
Yes.
isn't one.
Yes.
I mean,
Someone mentioned, please don't mention Twitter, only Blue Sky. I think I think we're on the same page on this, as I recall, but I don't feel like people should be leaving any social media platform right
no.
now. Like
Mm-mm.
NAACP, Indivisible, they all left Twitter. I think that was a huge mistake. I don't
Mm,
like Twitter. I don't like Elon Musk, but I refuse to be
no.
pushed out, and I'm going to keep using my voice in all the ways that I can, in all the places I can. And that brings up another point too, which is, as Chuck Schumer keeps referring to it, the social media. I want to
Mm,
see more lawmakers using it effectively in more places. I started this whole campaign to get Pete Buttigieg on Blue Sky. He did join, but like we need our lawmakers everywhere on all platforms, constantly communicating and singing from the same hymnal.
yeah.
Something I was really gratified to see yesterday, Eric Swalwell went to Florida because their lawmakers won't show up at town hall. Like that is genius. I love that. And I also, it's to me, it's like this town hall porn. I can't get enough of Republican lawmakers getting screamed at. It's just, it is my jam. But Charlotte, we got off of your petition. Talk about, I mean, you
Yeah.
have tens of thousands of signatures.
Yeah, yeah. As of this afternoon, which has been it's been 8 days, we've accrued almost 43,000 signatures. These are verified signatures, by the way. It's not just like you put your email in and move forward. These are 43,000 people, the vast majority of them Democrats, who have said that we will not contribute to any Senate Democrat, any person in the U.S. Senate who's a
Yes.
Democrat, until Mr. Schumer is removed from leadership. Now, I don't want to be doing this right now. I'll be honest with you. Doing a petition like this is way outside my comfort zone. I am more or less and
We
I
are
don't like to
normie
describe it.
Democrats, as the
We're
kids
normie
say.
Democrats. We're normie Democrats, as the kids say, establishment Democrats. And I'm very much at peace with that. So this is not something that I thought I would be doing several months ago, let alone being so enthusiastic about it. But I am so desperate and so terrified of the lack of a plan that I figured there needs to be some kind of incentive. I could have started a petition just to call on Senate Democrats to remove Mr. Schumer from leadership. I knew that wouldn't work. I knew it wouldn't work. There needs to be some kind of strong disincentive, and it has to be financial, in
Yep.
order for most Senate Democrats to get the picture that, hey, if we keep going along here, Democrats are going to vote, aren't going to support us financially. It's going to really hurt us going into the preparation for our Senate runs. So, I'm at the point where drastic measures need to be taken. And by the way, the town halls, all the town hall outrage has been great to watch. It is clear that there is a lot of anger at the Republican Party, including from a lot of Republican voters. But I want to warn Senate Democrats and really congressional Democrats generally, we cannot mistake anger at Republicans for enthusiasm for Democrats.
That is
These
such a
are
good
not
point.
these are not the same thing.
Yes.
Again, I think so many Democratic politicians are in this, I don't know, old school mindset that if one party's doing badly, that means another party stock is up on the rise. And yes, that was more or less true in the past. We're no longer there. I have talked to so many, again, normie people
Yep.
who are like, you know what? I don't like Trump or the Republicans at all, but I don't
And I
see
don't
anything from
like
the
Democrats
Democrats.
either. I
I
feel this.
mean,
I raised over $12 million for the party last year. I'm on the
yeah.
National Finance Committee for the DNC. I am not giving any money except to directly to candidates.
Hmm.
And until we see an overhaul, because this is not working. Now, the good news, I will say, Charlotte, is that I saw Senator Bennett, who I admire
Yes.
very much from Colorado. I saw him say there could be a change in leadership. It's something they're talking about and thinking about. I think it's important to keep the pressure on. What do you
Mhm.
recommend people who are watching do?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just Senator Bennett either. Congresswoman De La Ramirez, Congressman Glenn Ivey in Maryland, and then another congressman from California. And God, I'm blanking on the name, but three different members of Congress have come out and basically said that it's time for Mr. Schumer to step aside. And Senator Bennett got very, very close to saying that exact thing. Stop short of just saying it, but basically more or less imply that, yeah, it's time to think about Mr. Schumer stepping down. Here's what we need to be doing. Uh, Senate Democrats need to see numbers. They think right now this is like an online anger maelstrom, with people who are just pissed and it'll pass and people will calm down. They need to see tangible numbers, which is the reason for starting the petition,
Yep.
right? I mean, at first, I think the first night it got 5,000 signatures. I mean, we're up to 43,000 now. I'm certain we'll be up to 50,000 by Monday evening. And before the month is out, it would not surprise me if we hit 100,000 signatures. That's 100,000 people who have made a pledge not to donate to Senate Democrats. That's what they need to see. They need to see there will be consequences if Mr. Schumer stays on as leader.
Yes.
And if we go the next 6 months under this anemic trajectory of appeasing Trump and not fighting back like we should. But here's some other things that people can do after they sign that petition. Call your Democratic senators, call them, call their offices, email them. Even if it goes to voicemail, even if you can't get through, keep calling them. Visit their offices if you happen to be in DC for whatever reason. and make sure you tell them directly, like, "Hey, Senator, I'm not supporting Senate Democrats until Mr. Schumer is removed from his position as leader." And then, moreover, go to these town halls. Make sure you're going there. Make sure you're asking House members and senators directly in those spaces, specifically about this issue. Because again, if they don't see that anger, they're going to continue thinking, "All right, well, I guess
Yep.
we'll just ride this one out, and all we got to do is run out the clock." And that's going to hurt all of us. We cannot get to September when the next, continuing resolution argument is going to come up and have the same leadership in place. We can't do it.
And I don't know if you saw the Politico article yesterday, Charlotte, where they said Democrats are starting to get the message at their town halls, where they are just, I think they said one member of Congress was in tears and said they hate us. Like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that's not funny, but I think that it is important for them to hear that people are angry and expect them to fight. And don't get me started on John Fetterman. I mean,
Oh
I'm
God.
so
Ugh.
incredibly disappointed and just angry about that whole situation. So, Charlotte, people can sign the petition, Substack, Twitter, Blue Sky, wherever you
Yeah,
are. And
absolutely.
then
Or wherever you are.
wherever I am, here's my question, my last question for you. And I had this conversation with my husband. He said, well, if Chuck Schumer steps aside and lets another person become the Senate leader, wouldn't that just be another person with the same mindset, maybe someone who's been in office for 30 to 50 years? What are your thoughts on that? Like
I
who
think
would
that
that be?
I think the backlash against Mr. Schumer has been so severe that I would be incredibly surprised
Me too.
if his replacement stayed along this trajectory. A leadership change would have to be accompanied with some kind of change in direction. It would.
Yep.
And I'll tell you what, if that were to happen, we're going right back to this. We're going to be like, all right, time for another petition to
Yes.
be
Someone said
signed.
Chris Murphy. I think he would be amazing. Do you
I
have a
think it'd be amazing
preference?
too. I mean, listen, my heart would really love Elizabeth Warren as Senate Majority Leader. I'm not gonna lie. But here's the God's honest truth, and I'm not kidding. I would literally prefer anyone to what we're currently seeing. I don't care who it is.
Wait, but
Could
no, but you wouldn't prefer Dick Durbin.
I mean, if there was some kind of compromise where Mr. Durbin came in and he at least did something that is different from what we're seeing now, at least that's forward progress,
Yeah.
right? I am not at the point where I feel comfortable necessarily supporting any given Senate Democrat to take over for Mr. Schumer. But the fact that I'm saying literally anyone would be better right now has to say something about
except
how frustrated.
except John Fetterman. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's
Okay.
actually that's actually a good point. That's
Okay.
actually a damn good point. Yeah, Mr. Fetterman, bless his heart, really needs to engage in some serious self-reflection. His and especially his tone and rhetoric on social media over the past week or so
I'm
has
so
been
confused.
unbecoming, ungraceful, very confused, attacking AOC when she when she is one of the most popular Democrats in the country right now. I don't get it. And you know what? And I want to be clear about this. I appreciate that Mr. Fetterman has supported trans rights so aggressively and so
Yes.
proudly. That means a
That's why
lot to
it's
me.
shocking.
And that's why, honestly, I've held back criticism because he is one of the biggest people in the country who's defending trans rights right now. And yet, his rhetoric, his conduct toward other members of his party has been so over the line at this point that
Yeah.
he needs to step back and really do some introspection on the way he's approaching this situation.
But, maybe like we talking about people getting primaried, we're all on the Connor Lamb apology tour. So
Did you see that interaction
yes,
between? Would you like to explain to everyone what that
you
was?
you explain it. It was beautiful.
It was beautiful. So, Congresswoman AOC basically tweeted out that she felt she owed an apology to Connor Lamb, who was the center left slash moderate candidate that Mr. Fetterman beat during the primary for the 2022 Senate election, right?
Yep.
And she basically apologized to him because they're on opposite sides of the Democratic spectrum. And Connor Lamb responded to her and he said, "Hey, no apology needed. We're on the same side right now. We're both fighting for the same things. Let's just like one team, one fight and move forward." And that was so cool to see. I mean, that was really cool to see someone who's very much associated with the leftist side of the spectrum and
Yep.
someone who's very associated with the moderate side of the Democratic Party coming together and saying, look, we have one struggle right now. We're going to support each other and we are not going to do this ridiculous infighting. What's important right now is not about where you are on the ideological spectrum. What's important is whether you are a fighter or whether you are a non-fighter. And fighters in the party need to band together and fight and pressure non-fighters to understand their responsibility in this moment to to democracy and to our party. That's what needs to happen. And so, if you're watching this right now and if you haven't signed this petition, you can go to my blog at charlotteclymer.substack.com. Uh, just click on the first essay that you see. There's a petition link in there. You can go to any of my social media. Uh, uh, Shannon and many others have posted it. They need to see these numbers. They need to
Yep.
see tens of thousands of more people who are saying enough is enough. There will be consequences if you do not remove Mr. Schumer from leadership.
Charlotte, it's always fun to talk to you. And we'll have to jump back on if, in fact, Senator Schumer does allow someone else to be the Senate Majority
Mhm.
Leader. I remain hopeful. I think cynicism and hopelessness is often an excuse for inaction. I think we have
Agreed.
to be hopeful. I think we have to use the power that we have as citizens to push. That is
Mhm.
not, disloyal. That is democracy. That
We
we
love our
rise
party,
up.
which is
We
why we
love,
demand better.
yes, I have been a Democrat my entire life. The very first sentence I ever said was Nixon lied to the people. Like I believe in the promise and the potential of this party, but I believe it rests in people who understand. You were saying fight. I'm guessing Chuck Schumer would say he's fighting. It is fight, but
Mm,
it's more than that too. It's the ability to meet the moment because
mhm,
you understand the severity of the crisis and you have unique and innovative solutions to combat it. And he
mhm.
does not have that. It is very clear.
No.
So, Charlotte, thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for starting this petition. I urge everyone to go sign it, and we'll keep having conversations about this.
Yes, ma'am. Sounds good. I hope you have a lovely weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye, y'all.